I'm Kayla.
And I'm Christian.
And you're watching What's Her Angle?
Here we strive to elevate you spiritually and practically through meaningful conversations. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing great and feeling awesome. Hope you guys have been enjoying the new content. Make sure you guys are following us on Instagram at What's Her Angle for all of the tea as always. But today we wanted to give you guys a few gems about what your process is or what our process is when we are trying to do some things differently. Right. So our last video, we basically talked about shifting gears when you are leveling up. So I wanted us to talk a little bit about our process, and we just kind of wanted to share with you guys, what does our process look like when we want to do things differently? I always get questions from people about, how do I get started? I want to work out, but how do I get started? I want to do this, but how do I get started? And, whatever we want to do differently in life, there's going to be a transition in that, whether you want to go back to school, pick up a new hobby, start to travel more, bring in some new exercises into your life, whatever the case may be, there's going to be a change. And I think a lot of times if you don't have a specific plan in mind, or if you don't know how you need to learn, it's easy to get ahead of yourself and be in a space where you're like, okay, I done bought all of this gym equipment and now, I haven't been able to be consistent, or I've told myself that I'm about to start doing this or start doing this, and I feel like I have some trouble getting into it. So of course, we just wanted to give you guys a few pointers, especially as we get into the end of the year. A lot of what we're talking about is, we kind of mentioned the topic about making the most of the space that you're in a couple of months ago. And I think that we're kind of bringing that same energy back as we wrap up the year. Like, instead of just, feeling like, the year is over with, the year is done with, let's just move on ahead. Making the most out of these next 2 months and figuring out how you can do some things differently. Like, if you want to work out in the new year, if you want to plan better or be more organized, how can you add in those things in your routine now, little by little, and work out all of the kinks over the next 2 months? So whenever January hits, or even whenever, March hits, because we know that the real new year is when spring rolls back around, so when spring is rolling back around, how can you ensure that you are feeling how you need to feel and that you're able to implement the things that you've been wanting to implement? So I guess we can just kind of start off with what our first steps look like, and then, kind of getting into what we learned in the middle process, and then what the ending steps kind of look like for us in changing. So what would you say is your first step when you are like, okay, I want to do something different, I want to switch up something? What is your first step for people who are wanting a new life? We have a lot of viewers, who are maybe still living with their parents, or they're living with roommates, or they're not really sure how they want to start their business or whatever. So what would you say would be the first step, no matter what situation you are, to kind of get you into, a new space?
Honestly, the first step that I would say, even I do this, I honestly just reimagine myself into that space already. Visualizing yourself allows you to really focus on what's important for you and what you absolutely don't want. There's a lot of fluff out there on social media, and while I go in there, and I would even suggest looking up, if you want to live in an apartment by yourself, go look at hashtag first time apartment, getting a feel of what other people are doing and implementing that into your reimagination of where you will want to be in the future. I think it's so important, because I value knowing that other people are in the same boat as me, and finding that support, or finding someone who is honestly sort of in the same boat, or have some type of experience that you are also experiencing, honestly will help you feel less alone, first of all, and then it allows you to really kind of see the process that they take. And again, this is just something that I like doing, because when I think about myself in a new space, or being a new person, or implementing something in my life, I really try to see myself as that person, understanding what's important, because everybody's needs are different. So you have to learn about what your personal needs are, what your personal desires are, and do they really match into what you think you want to be at. So imagining yourself is so important, and that is what I usually do, first time thinking about where I want to be at, and what I need to do. So what do you do when you are trying to, think about yourself differently, and, the processes that you need to take to get to that point?
I feel like my first step is always just implementing it into my life right away. Like
I love that. It's totally different than what
Anytime I decide I want to do something different, I immediately try to implement it into my life right away. And I feel that just kind of gives me little to no time to really kind of like talk myself out of it or think about it too much. Like if I decide I want to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm doing it tomorrow. Or, I'll just get into the practice. Like journaling has always been big for me, but it's been a while since I've journaled. I got my last journal in November of 2020. So I was at the bookstore a couple weeks ago, and then I got a journal, and I was like, I'm going to start journaling every evening, talking about my day. And that was something I've been wanting to do for a while, but until I actually went out, got the journal, wrote my first entry, and, put it by my bed, came up with my eating routine, it would have just been, a thought.
Yeah.
So for me, anytime I want to do something, the first thing I do is implement it into my life, whatever that may look like. Like, okay, so tomorrow I need to research this, I need to plan this, just getting the facts on it, getting the facts on it, kind of like what you were saying, just with the visualizing, but just like a different part of visualizing, basically, like, can this fit into my routine?
Right.
Because when I start doing that, I can see, okay, journaling probably will work better at lunchtime. Journaling will probably work better in the morning. What do I get from doing this in the evening time? Like, is this really the best thing for me? Should I switch it up? It just, getting into it for me gives me the time to kind of do the problem solving that takes up the bulk of doing things differently. And definitely what I wanted to get across is that we have this big misconception that whenever we're doing something differently, we have this huge expectation, like, I'm going to be journaling every day and I'm not going to need therapy anymore, or, it's going to just change my life, or I'm going to start this meditation every day. I'm going to start working out every day, and it's just going to be so different. And it's like, no matter what you try, you're still going to deal with the same issues that you deal with in your current life. So I think even just kind of being realistic with yourself about the process as well. Like, I know I'm the type of person, like, if you need to do something a few times before it sticks, then already have that conversation with yourself, so you're not disappointed when you missed your first couple of nights with your journaling or with your working out or with whatever, so just kind of implementing that routine, giving yourself a schedule, like, okay, now I'm going to be doing this. And then just, moving forward from that, getting into the mid part of your journey, basically, where you're figuring out if something is working. If it's not, it's normal. Whenever we step into a new space, you're supposed to be confused. You're supposed to be frustrated. You're supposed to feel like what I was doing was easier. Of course it was, because you were doing that. You were familiar with that. You knew what that was. Right. So when you step into a new space, it's always going to be confusing. And I think, just getting in the habit of making plans, adjusting your plans, changing your plans, being flexible. I think that's really, really good to do just, from the beginning. And, if you are a visualizer in the beginning of your journey, be open to visualizing in different ways. Like, if you want to see yourself doing something and then you realize because you have children, or because you're not finished with school, or because, you are waiting to move into your own place, that these things aren't realistic, then maybe scale it back a little bit and figure out, okay, I know I want to do this. What can I do right now to get me to this? Or how can I make sure that I end up in that space? What can I visualize a little bit better? So I think those are some great, steps, visualizing and, planning. And like I said, for me, after I, get my plan, I kind of start to work through the nitty gritty of, breaking things down. And that's when I feel like you really fade into something different. Like, I don't think it's ever like a light bulb goes off and your life is different and then now it's something totally different. I think it's a gradual change, and I think the journey always goes on. And I think a part of it is just being flexible as well, and being open with yourself, and not feeling like your new life or your new routine has to be like this long checklist to a T verbatim. It's like, give yourself that flexibility so you can figure out different things and grow, because you might realize, okay, I want to do something different, so just giving yourself that flexibility is, super important to just, carry you all the way, through that journey. Basically, that's the bulk of it. Like, we wait for that moment of success, but realistically, we're just
always chasing it. And
exactly.
I think that a lot of times when you are planning and visualizing and getting into the nitty gritty of things, we really do think that it's supposed to be super perfect. And okay, well, we saw it on the movies and it's supposed to be like this every day. And it's like, your mood changes every day. life happens, there are things, challenges, issues that come your way, experiences come your way that will honestly transform the way you think about yourself and the things that you're doing. And you have to be able to pivot. I think we talked about this in our last video and about pivoting and ensuring that you know, like, where, even if you don't know where the ultimate goal is or the ultimate end of it is, you kind of know that you're going to have to pivot sometimes. You're going to have to take time to refocus and really learn about where you are today. And I think that's really where you have to really think about. And I really love that you talked about just being able to visualize yourself in it and also kind of putting yourself into the nitty-gritty, because some people are researchers like myself and we love knowing every single thing. But honestly, sometimes it scares people. Sometimes it scares people to know every single thing and know, you know, what's not going to work, what is going to work. But having just a really like a foundation of knowing, okay, I can do this. It's probably feasible. This is not feasible. Let me rethink this. That is what's going to take you far. And, you know, another thing that I think about the process and just learning about yourself is honestly just being happy that you even decided to do it, you know?
Yeah, for real.
A lot of times we are stuck in complacency. I can't tell you how many times I stopped myself from doing something because I was simply afraid that I was going to fail. And there's this TikTok floating around, and I really love this saying, and it's not really a saying, but it's like a way of thinking. And the TikTok kind of talks about hard and, you know, are you going to be hard struggling? You're going to struggle hard? Are you going to be broke hard? You know, or are you going to be confident hard?
Yeah, like
you
it's
know,
all hard.
like it's all difficult. Hard.
Yeah.
It's all going to be difficult. It's all going to be challenging. You have to figure out what type of challenges you want to face. Do you want to be successful and still have challenges? Because that's going to happen regardless if you're successful or not.
Yeah.
You're going to have challenges. Or do you want to be stuck in the same place that you thought you thought you weren't going to be in 5 years from now? You know, everything is going to be hard. I would rather be taking 3 steps forward and having challenges there than being in the same spot and feeling like, okay, where would I be if I was 3 steps forward, 5 steps forward? You know, I would at least want to be halfway there at this point. So learn yourself. Know that nothing is going to come easy. And it's hard to think that way, because especially when people have hard lives always, you're like, why does life have to be so hard? Life is hard for everyone in a different way. So everybody goes through struggles, some more than most, but the thing is about life is that it's always here for you to shape and mold it for yourself. And you really have to have that willingness to do it. And really just, you know what, say, girl, I'm going to do this. Like, I am not going to let nothing happen, nothing come in my way. I'm going to get to where I want to be, because you know what? I believe in myself. And that's where you really have to be with every single decision in your life.
And I think it's important too, like you said, to remember that, you know, you have to give yourself grace and gratitude for even wanting something different and wanting change. And I think it's important to remember, you know, when you get discouraged on your journey, the person that you were when you thought that this was going to be a success, the person that you were when you thought, oh my God, I'm destined for this, I have to do this, I have to make this happen. Just remember that person's confidence and that person's drive. Like, it's not like your confidence goes out the window. You still are confident. You just have to get reconnected to that confidence underneath the stress. And you also have to stop thinking that stress is the end all be all. Like, we feel like it's supposed to get easy, and it never does. Like, I am sorry to tell you, baby, it will never be easy. Life never gets easy, literally.
Right.
You really just have to pick your struggle. You have to decide what you want to, literally, just like everything, relationships, jobs, you know, like even where you live, nothing is going to be perfect. Right. You just have to figure out how you want to make it work for you, and you have to accept every part of the journey and be open to, you know, the ups and downs of it, and just be realistic about life, you know. And a lot of times I feel we search and run after these unrealistic expectations forever. And you're never going to be satisfied with any job, any lifestyle, anything, because there's always going to be, you know, a problem somewhere. There's always going to be something lacking somewhere. So I think just, you know, focusing on your journey as well, not comparing it to anybody else, you know, and like you said, visualizing yourself in those spaces, not visualizing anybody else's stuff. Even like I said, planning to introduce this into my life. Like you want to make it personal to you. Because the struggles, like I said, that you had, you're going to deal with those same struggles. Like those things aren't going to go away. If you know you deal with self-doubt when you're making big change, the self-doubt is going to be around the corner. So just, you know, understanding yourself, learning yourself, and knowing yourself is really, really key. We always talk about self-awareness, and that will really, you know, save you a lot whenever you're trying to make changes. And it'll also just stop you from being so hard on yourself and feeling like it's easy for everybody else. Or I don't know who told you that. I don't know what made you feel like that. But it is not easy. It is not easy. And I think, you know, having real friendships, having real relationships is great as well, because the people in your life don't have easy lives, you know, and if you think they do, then you really don't know them like that. You know, the people in your life don't have easy lives. You know, the most successful women that I know work every day for that success. You know, they're confused for that success. They're frustrated for that success, but they're going to get the check. Right. You know, the check is going to cash at the end of the day. So that is their, you know, struggle. That is their life. That is their path. That's what they choose. And I think, you know, the biggest thing in wanting things differently is to just make sure it's something that you really want in your heart, not because Instagram or social media told you that this is what you should have. If it's something you want in your heart, you know, that is usually enough to carry you through to the end, because your desire will, you know, last. Just like people always say, you know, you might have everybody making music, but people who really, really want to be artists, like what they do is always going to be setting apart. Like everybody might be an influencer, everybody might be doing hair, everybody might be doing whatever, but what sets you apart is your desire and your gift to do that. And that's what, you know, led you to fulfill that purpose. So just, you know, having that in mind is going to be super key whenever you're doing things differently. And again, you know, we want to do the end of this year a little bit differently. We want to bring in a different energy, learn from the sorrows that we feel every year, and, you know, switch it up a little bit. You know, it's like, we know these things are coming. Let's figure out how we can do some things differently. And we know it's super hard to make change. Of course, the hardest thing you can do is say, I want to change my life, because when you make a change, everything in your life is going to be reflecting that change. So it can be difficult. But of course, we want to, you know, give you guys the tools along the way so you can make great decisions, so you can feel good about where you're going, and also so you don't have to feel alone. So you don't have to feel like everybody that's making changes just makes one change and their life just is fairy tale and rainbows, because that most of the time does not happen. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this little spiel about, you know, the process to doing things differently. You guys can definitely let us know down below in the comment section, you know, what your process looks like, or what you typically struggle with when you're doing things differently. If you deal with a lot of stress or a lot of confusion, we definitely want to give you guys more insight on this as we wrap up the year, just to kind of help us, you know, set our goals differently, change the narrative like we talked about in the last video, so we can get something different out of this space. So yeah, we appreciate you guys as always. Make sure again you follow us on Instagram so you stay up to date with everything that we have going on. But we appreciate you guys, and we thank you as always, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, ladies.